Well, thank you everyone for joining today. Another Tech Titan webinar that we do today. We're presenting on noise canceling technology and really how to optimize that for your remote work experience, which many of are in today. My name is Mike Vitale. I'm a sales engineer with Intermedia, and joining us today from Poly are Scott and Brad. And so we'll be taking it through this. We're going to leave some time certainly for the presentation, which you're here for as well, but also I would like to hear your feedback. And just as I'm getting going here at the beginning, it sounds like everyone can hear me, but if you would, at the top of the screen, you'll see an emoji. If you can just let me know either with a high five or a smile. Okay, great. Thank you for doing that. I can know that everyone can hear me. So as we get going, most of you are here. You've certainly seen this, or maybe you've seen these Tech Titan webinar Wednesday that we do. This is part of our Tech Titan series that we present, and this is to focus a bit more on technology. We have a business strategy series that we run on Wednesdays, so they're offsetting Wednesdays if you'd like to join. And of course, probably all have this, but if someone else is interested that you know of, intermediawebinars.com is where you go to register. We also have on every other Wednesday a contact center event as well that you're welcome to join. So between Business Builder, Tech Titan, and Contact Center, we try to get you covered. So during the presentation, and you'll have a chance for certainly for feedback. But the other piece that I want to mention is we do like to hear how we're doing and feedback. There is a Tech Titan at intermedia.net alias that you can use, and you're welcome, after the presentation, to send us your thoughts and any updates, other things that you may want to hear, topic suggestions. There are a lot of changes and updates that we make, as well as even to the applications and services, and that we feed off of that feedback. So please know that's available and that you're able to do that. And as always, you can certainly interact with this webinar. You can tell us how we're doing and feeling. You've already used that, but there are the ability to use emojis at the top, as well as there is a ability to send us questions. And again, that functionality is the top of your screen, and you can do that. And we'll do our best to review and answer as much of that as we can. So it sounds like everyone can hear me, and what I'd like to do now is, and thank you again everyone for joining, I am going to turn over the presentation now to Scott and Brad.
Great, thank you, Mike, and thanks everyone for the time today. This is Scott Zimbalin. I am with Poly based in Denver, and I manage the partnership with Intermedia. I'm part of our cloud service provider team. Brad Maruziak is our solution architect, and he'll be doing the bulk of the discussion today and the more deep technical dive on some of the actual noise canceling technologies. For those of you not familiar with Poly, again, we are the combined companies of Polycom and Plantronics that merged a couple years ago. We are headquartered in San Jose and Santa Cruz, California. We have development sites in Texas, Colorado, Vancouver, British Columbia, a few other places in North America, and we manufacture also in North America. So that's a little bit about who we are. And if you look at the portions of our technology that integrate and what Intermedia takes to market, it's a variety of different types of endpoints, whether it be group devices or personal devices. You might be familiar with our VVX line of phones. I think the 450 is the most common phone used with an Intermedia application, but we have a series of VVXs, highlighted a few here. Our OB300 ATA is something that Intermedia added to the portfolio earlier this year. The Trio is the a core conference room device. And also Intermedia added a handful of our headset technologies, both a wired, the Blackwire, and the Savvy decked wireless headsets to the portfolio as user personas and user requirements change. Now, each of these have some type of noise canceling technology in them. Um, okay, maybe not the ATA, but the rest of the technologies have different types of noise canceling technology based on the use case, based on the environment. And again, Brad will be highlighting and explaining how some of that technology works. Um, the reason this is critical is obviously a lot has changed in terms of what our clients and your customers are expecting. Obviously it doesn't, a lot has changed in terms of where people need to work. There's been a huge, not only transition to the cloud, because legacy PBX is just, it's hard to get as much remote connectivity using that legacy to connect technology, but the ability to have a uniform experience, whether you're home office, corporate office, on the road, or anywhere in between. So there's been obviously more transition to cloud services over the last 6 months than we've seen probably over the last 2 years. And applications like this, AnyMeeting, is becoming much more prevalent and required. It's not just about dial tone anymore, even for the smallest of our customers. We're all doing um, Zoom calls with our grandma and everything else. So really, the dynamics of communication is changed dramatically, and the Intermedia platform obviously has great tools based on those different use cases, which vary. And again, we've got, I believe, really strong endpoints to help accommodate that. So what we've seen with this transition is really our customers are needing to initially respond to what's changed, then look at redesigning how they kind of allow their customers to use their telephony or their UC applications, and then are now looking to kind of reinvent. Okay, what is the steady state moving forward? And that's something that is still, something that a lot of companies are struggling with. But we'll touch on each of those and how this kind of relates back to the work environment and how to make ultimately the adoption of the technology and the satisfaction and the customer satisfaction is as strong as possible. So in the response, it used to be that the IT team would maybe say, "Hey, if you want to work at home, we'll give you a stipend of $20 for home internet, and everything else is on you." Then with COVID, it was, "Hey, go buy whatever you need to make your home office work." And now IT teams are now struggling to figure out, okay, what's out there? How do we control it? How do we ensure supportability and stuff like that? So that's has been the respond phase of what's been going on over the course of the last 6 months. So what is the new workspace? It's a home office, which can be, if you're lucky, a dedicated space. If you're not, you're sharing it with your 3-year-old and your 7-year-old, and if you're really unlucky like me, a 13-year-old. So a lot of noise, a lot of background noise that we now have to figure out how to keep people's focus, how to keep their attention, how to allow them to do their job. A lot of times, video is now becoming, again, a more increased aspect of a lot of people's experience. Whereas then again, why AnyMeeting is such a key asset, I think, for us all. And now there is a thought process of how do we now design a return to the office. Now, there's all sorts of stats out there that, I think 45% of most customers out there, according to a poll by a human resources firm, don't know when they're going back to the office. And I think that 75% of most companies are saying that they are going to, stagger their work in office time to increase social distancing. So that's just putting more pressure on the IT teams, more pressure on flexibility for connectivity into corporate assets, including the unified communication tool. And really, the unified communication tool is becoming much more of a critical aspect of that whole workflow. So as part of that, moving from from responding to redesigning, a big part of what we need to do is understand the worker roles. Who's going to be the essential workers that have to be in the office? who are going to be the flex workers that have some flexibility, and which workers are going to be full-time remote. I think we've transitioned from 3 million, or excuse me, 30 million work at home type workers to like 270 million. So, and it's expected that 120 million will remain at home. So that the office has forever changed for many organizations and many companies. So, and again, keeping people's attention, keep them being able to focus, and making sure that your spouse, your dog, your kids, your neighbor cutting the grass don't get featured in the call that you're on. Those are all pretty common noises. It's sometimes very hard to control, and luckily we have technologies that can eliminate a lot of that background noise for you automatically. So some of those technologies that Brad is going to go in more detail on include things like noise block and acoustic fence. Some of these technologies you might be already familiar with. They are in the existing VVXs or trios, but there's other technologies that are part of the headsets that we're going to be just discussing on how they work, what do they actually do, and then how to use it to actually apply to um, um, ensuring that the user experience is good. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brad to kind of dive into some of the specifics of the technology.
Sure. Thank you, Scott. Hi, guys. Brad Maruziak. I'm coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm a solution architect with Poly. Been a long-time Polycom guy before that. Most of our desk phones and our conference equipment was actually R&D, the engineering, that all took place in Vancouver. So we're a West Coast company. On this topic of noise canceling, you've probably come across somebody at some point who's hinted that they wanted to buy, or they were looking into a noise canceling device, and it's really important to try and figure out what is it that their expectation is, because there are multiple types of noise canceling. There's definitely things that will benefit the person you're talking to, and there's also technologies that will benefit you in the room you're at. The most basic of which is that microphone. We can do some noise canceling directly at the microphone, and then a little bit beyond, using what I've listed here as digital artistry. That's the proprietary algorithms that any company will have. It is what differentiates one competitor from another. And now that we have access to USB headsets, we've got a little bit more power to work with. We can put digital chips into these things. Whereas if you think of the days of the past, an RJ9 connection, you've got just a couple millivolts that you can work with. So there wasn't much you could do with compute. On the wearer side, we can design headsets to try and minimize the noise around you. And then you're hearing more and more about active noise canceling these days, or ANC. So starting in on that microphone, there's two primary mic types that you're going to run into out in the world. We have what is known as a directional microphone. The actual pickup pattern is a cardioid figure, so that's on their top left there. That's used in most of the Poly headsets these days. We have a few used in contact center where we still use a clear mic tube and an omnidirectional pickup, but most of these headsets are going to be using a directional microphone. And for these directional microphones, because of the way they're mounted, boom placement is important. I mean, we all think of that, but surely you've been on a call with somebody who's had the microphone boom pushed up, and that's just one of these special features there. And the reason that these directional microphones pick up the way that they do is because far field sound, so sound that's not coming from your mouth, the pressure waves can actually enter at both the front and the rear of the microphone diaphragm. So those two pressure waves more or less cancel out. There's not a lot of movement on that. Whereas with an omnidirectional microphone featured on the right, more commonly used in speakerphones, it doesn't really matter where the sound source is. The pressure wave will hit through only one opening, and so you would pick up everything. I should mention the Blackwire 3200. Those are using directional microphones. It's what I'm speaking to you today on for this webinar. If we look at the other headset, the Savvy 8200 series, and there's an 8210 and an 8220, both are sold by Intermedia. And similar with the Blackwire, the 10 is 1 ear, the 20, 2 ears. We have a feature in the 8200 series called close conversation limiting. Now, what that's doing is taking that directional microphone and we're putting in a little bit of something extra. We've got some more power to work with. We've got an onboard chip. We can apply a DSP, digital signal processing, to that. So we're able to recognize lower volume noise, things that are coming in on certain frequency spectrums. We can eliminate that. And again, close conversation limiting is only on this particular product. We've got a variety of noise canceling technologies. They kind of scatter throughout our headset portfolios. The Savvy is a premier device. We've done quite a bit of work figuring out how to limit that background noise. This is less of a noise canceling and more of what we would probably call a noise suppression technology. We are able to recognize human speech and non-human speech background noises, and just based on the volume levels that we see, we strip those out of what we send to the far end. If we move over to our desk phones, Polycom, prior to the merger with Plantronics, had a technology called the Acoustic Fence. This technology is similar to the close conversation limiting in that we do have a DSP algorithm that we apply, but it also makes use of the fact that when you're speaking on that handset, the handset is physically separated and distanced from the hands-free microphone. The hands-free microphone on the bottom of all of these sets is an omnidirectional microphone. We can actually detect timing differences between when a sound is coming in to the handset versus that omnidirectional microphone on the chassis. We can also detect frequency spectrum. We can detect how what the amplitude is of that signal. And so we can do a very good job of eliminating all that background noise, especially when somebody is not talking. And that's a key piece here with the Acoustic Fence. There's no real-time processing. We apply noise suppression DSP to try and limit background noise, but when you stop speaking, that's when this thing really shines, and it is very different from the older voice activity detection algorithms. What we do is we effectively gate that microphone in the handset. There's a great video online. If we have a little slide issue there. There's a great video online if you look for Poly Acoustic Fence or the Zombie Apocalypse. One of our colleagues here in Texas has set up his office with a bit of background noise, and he does a real-time demonstration of what the Acoustic Fence can do for you. Noise block is a technology that we put on all of our conference phone equipment. So obviously without a headset, without a handset, there's no way to separate distance between microphones. So instead, we apply more of that DSP technology to recognize what's a human voice versus what is a non-human voice. And we've taken certain types of noise specifically. High frequency whine that you would get from an HVAC system or a fan, keyboarding noise. We've got videos where folks are using bags of chips or lunch things. So this was aimed at your conference room where people would bring in food to a board meeting. On all of our Trio products, we do have 3 directional microphones, and they form the 360-degree coverage. And these microphones are actively listening for where the speaker is in a room. So we can detect who the primary speaker is, and if necessary, we can shut off 2 of the 3 microphones. So we really focus in with a beamform technology, if you will. Apply noise block as well so that you don't have to reach for that mute key. You know, if you want to start typing something on your keyboard, you can do that, and the Trio will recognize that you're not speaking in the room, and it'll block out all of the mics, get rid of that keyboard noise. So all of those previous technologies, they help the person that you're speaking to, but they haven't done much to help you in a noisy environment. The 2 primary technologies that we do to help you out, the first one and probably the most simplest but often overlooked is that of passive noise isolation. So what is the material used and what is the form factor? The black wire pictured there on the left, they have foam ear cups. So foam's going to do an okay job. Whereas the Savvy, we moved to a leatherette, and that leatherette gives you a little bit of extra attenuation on the sound that you will hear. Obviously, with a one-ear headset like a 3210 or a Savvy 8210, you still have full exposure to all background noise. So what we do on the 8220, we have active noise canceling, and it's only available on the 8220. You do have to have both ear cups for this. Active noise cancellation is the process of listening to background noise and then playing back an inverse waveform to try and cancel out that background noise. Now, this works best on droning noise like airplane, background noise, HVAC noise. It's a little trickier to do with background human speech or any of these higher frequency noises. ANC actually works best at 800 hertz frequencies and below. And there are multiple types of active noise canceling. So not all headsets are created equal. Not all noise canceling algorithms are created equal. We use a process called feedback, in which the microphone is actually inside the ear cup. So we're listening to the audio that we're playing to you and able to change that in real time. There's a small latency to this, but most people never pick that up. And you do have the ability to turn that on or off. I'll call out another feature that most people aren't familiar with is, even though you've got active noise canceling running on your Savvy 8220, if you were not in a call, if you were to reach up and push the mute button, we actually have an open mic technology. So if somebody does walk up to you in the office, at home, and they click that open mic, or you click that open mic rather, we will open up the external microphone that's normally used to listen to your surrounding background noise, and will give you a better experience. You'll be able to hear them much more clearly. So a wordier slide to describe more or less what I've just described here to you guys, but essentially, to block out noise for you, the wearer, it's a combination of the technologies. So you really do need good passive headset design, and we take an immense amount of effort into all of our headsets to make sure that we fit the majority of ear sizes. That will give you good passive headset design. And then picking up that 8220, going that extra mile, we can do a good job of removing low frequency noise. Now, each of these technologies, I mentioned a bit of our marketing name. Here's a catch-all slide for you guys. So each of the personas that your customers are finding themselves in, whether they're a road warrior, a home worker, there's a little bit more to picking a headset than just, do I want to be able to walk around with it, or do I want to have a wire attached? It's important to recognize that just because you're at home, you may actually be better off picking up a VVX desk phone. You'll get that speakerphone and you'll get Acoustic Fence. The Acoustic Fence is probably one of the strongest noise blocks that we have amongst these. However, we won't be able to do much for you in a noisy environment. And so if you do need to pick up that 8220 just to get ANC, well, by all means, that's the best you can get for a headset option. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Scott now and see if we've got any questions. I'll be monitoring the background.
Great, thank you, Brad. So there are a lot of online demos that we have, and maybe we'll try to get a list of these through the Intermedia team. But if you're in a situation with customers and you want to be able to help demonstrate the technology, there's some that are done by third parties, by our field team, and by our product teams. So they can be pretty useful in helping you explain this technology to some of your customers. So we'll try to make sure that they're also pretty easily searched on YouTube. So we've talked a little bit about responding to the immediate crisis now, and there's been a redesign to help think through how to have a customer or a end user work from both the office and at home. And now what we're seeing is a lot of people are needing to kind of reinvent their strategy and looking longer term at really what is the new normal, what's next. And for a lot of organizations, it's not going to be looking backwards at how business was done in the past. There's all sorts of reports by HR groups and other technology research companies that talk about, a lot of times customers are really trying to embrace social distancing, but still keep the company culture, still keep, you know, that part aspect of work intact, and really concerned with how do you manage remote employees. And we're not talking just technology. We're talking how does a manager that's used to seeing his or her employees now manage people remotely. And really unified communications is becoming a very important aspect and key aspect of that. We've seen, Poly has been involved in the telephony side of the business, obviously for a long time. It's also been video has been a big part of our portfolio. Used to be that video was in bigger accounts, enterprise, more expensive rooms. That's all changed. It's really, first of all, the technology is a lot more affordable, but also the need for video has really changed dramatically. So that's part of the aspect of the reinvention that everyone's looking at, and that's hence why I think the combination of Unite, AnyMeeting is a pretty strong portfolio. So with that reinvention, how do we increase flexibility across the workspaces? How do you continue to accommodate, work at home and the office and social distancing, and what technologies do we use to enable that? And how do you ensure if someone's at a meeting at their house, they're just as involved and productive as they would be back in the office? So, there's a lot of considerations that you need for this type of kind of flexible work arrangement. Maybe work from home, meet in the office is a concept a lot of people are working around. So the type of conference rooms and the use of conference rooms has really changed. You might even, wanting to look at equipment that understands proximity and can even help you count the number of people in a room to help help enforce, policy. So there's a lot of new things to be considered. How do you maintain the equipment? We actually have guides that talk about maintaining, recommended cleanliness processes for cleaning equipment. And then we focused on noise management today, with really noise being really front and center in terms of making sure that we can ensure a useful work experience. So again, just to recap, so if you have any more questions, we're happy to help you with any kind of your bid responses or anything you might be doing with customers through the interactive team. We think Poly's been in this business. We've been enabling work from home for many years. Most of our employees, other than outside of development, have been work from home for many years. We've got a lot of good practices, best practices that have been in place for some time. So I think we can, we've been designing our products around solving work from home issues for a long time. And the fact that we are 100% research and development and manufacturing of our products is all done in North America. I think that adds a lot of time to market and security and other aspects that I think are going to be important to more and more of your customer base. So with that, I think we'll turn it back over to the Intermedia team and see if there's any questions we can help answer.
Yeah, thank you, Scott and Brad, for presenting. Excellent. And we have had a few questions, but if there are some or other feedback, you'll see at the top of your screen at the webinar is you can, again, use the emojis to let us know how, of course, we're doing. But if there are questions, and I'm going to take a quick look and see if there are some. So one of the questions we have, and I can read it out, is this DECT or Bluetooth or neither, is one of the questions.
Okay, I'll take that one.
Great.
The Blackwire 3200 series is USB, so I believe you're asking about the 8200. That's the Savvy. The Savvy is actually both DECT and Bluetooth. That device is able to connect to your PC with a USB cable, It connects to a desk phone using an analog RJ9 cable, and it can connect Bluetooth to a mobile phone, and then you can switch in between. The headset itself uses DECT to communicate with the base station. So you've got a very long range that you can wander away from your base station. You will have to remember to leave your mobile phone near your desk if you do choose to walk 300 feet away, because Bluetooth has a shorter range than DECT does.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Poly does have a line of products called the Voyager, which is a Bluetooth headset. That isn't something that Intermedia was looking to take it to market right away. Just because a lot of the use cases, wired and then DECT mobility, with DECT giving better range, better security. It's a much more robust protocol than Bluetooth. But that said, we do, have a extensive lineup of Bluetooth headsets under the Voyager line as well.
Great, thank you. And a related question, is Acoustic Fence still used on the Poly with Intermedia?
That is a good question. The software version that Intermedia is using does have the feature, but it is disabled by default. Admittedly, it has been a while since I've seen an Intermedia configuration template. I will have to check on that, and we will get back to you. And if it's not on, I'll do my best to make sure that it's turned on.
Yeah, it can be turned on through the Min portal, but yeah, it's been a standard feature in our versions of all VVXs that are currently sold by Intermedia have the ability to support Acoustic Fence, and the version of code that they support also supports it.
Very good. Well, those are the questions that we have received. I'll open it up for just a few other seconds. If there are any others, you're certainly welcome to present those. There are some questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw that.
Great.
I mean, there was a reference to some DNS issues. Unfortunately, that's a little too open of a question. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. If you do have DNS issues, make sure that Intermedia is aware of them. We do have a partner relationship. They can bring those support issues directly to Poly, and then more often than not, usually at the end, I get to see them as well. So we'll work on fixing any of that.
We have a couple of other questions, and if Brad or Scott, if you have visibility, if not, I can certainly read them out.
Yeah, I don't. Please do.
Sure. Yeah, and there's a question about selling Poly through Intermedia. Do I get partner credits? That is one we may need to get back. I don't know if Brad or Scott, if you know about that, but we can look at that and follow up.
Yeah, I'd want to defer that to the channel team at Intermedia to talk about your channel compensation issues. I'm not privy to all of that.
Sure. Yeah, and we can certainly do that. And then there's a question about, will Polycom let host names on the phones, or allow host names on the phones?
Host names.
Yeah, I had a question too. The person who submitted that, if you can perhaps restate, if you mean with the service, or if you want to restate that, we can take a look at that as well. But thank you for submitting it. All right, let me see.
Yeah.
So we may come back. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously within a device like a Poly VVX, if there's 400 features that can be enabled, no one enables all of those. Obviously in Intermedia is really, they put our products through the ringer. They before they release a product, they have a set of features that they feel are the most valuable and that they go to market with. So if there's feature that we have that maybe is not yet enabled, that'd be a conversation we want you guys to bring back to the Intermedia team, and they want to evaluate whether it made sense to enable.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, drive your requests into Intermedia. Poly regularly releases feature updates and maintenance patches as well. Not every feature update is going to have material in it that's uh, representative of Intermedia's needs, but there's plenty of features that we put in there in contemporary software that I think you guys could take advantage of. There was a reference to speed dials. Any plans to expand speed dial buttons above 12? That could be taken two ways. If you're talking about keys on the phone itself, the VVX 450 model, that gives you the most number of physical keys, but that phone will also let you add an expansion module that gets you access to a great number of physical keys for speed dials. If we were to look forward, Poly does have software releases that allow us to create virtual pages on our phones as well, but that's a feature that would require Intermedia to move to a new software release. So again, drive those requests to Intermedia. Same with the backgrounds. The phones do have the ability to change background images. That's usually something that needs to be enabled by Intermedia so that they have a method to let you insert that image or choose where the image is coming from. Just catching up on some of these. Can the USB headset be used on the desktop for the Unite Elevate app? Yes, it absolutely can. Whenever you are on a laptop or your desktop phone, Poly, previously Polycom and Plantronics, has a application called Plantronics Hub. You can search for that and install it. Plantronics Hub will give you access to all of the settings that you can change for your headset, and especially with headsets like the Blackwire 3200 or the Savvy, we have firmware releases for those as well, so we can fix minor issues. But Intermedia has done the development to integrate their application with our headsets. So you will actually see a little marker in your application telling you that Hub is installed and you guys are good to go. You're integrated. So let's see.
And there is another question there, and maybe that's what you're getting caught up on. Will we get the same noise canceling benefits? And is that across the range of servers? I'm not quite sure, the person who submitted that, if that's what you're referring to.
Oh, I think if I refer back to one of the earlier questions, so can the USB headset be used on the desktop? Will you get the same range of noise cancellation benefits? Yes, you will. The Blackwire itself has just a directional microphone in it, so that's going to be your primary form of noise cancellation. It'll focus in on just your mouth and do its best to remove the background noise. Whereas with the Savvy, absolutely, all of the noise cancellation technology like our close conversation limiting, that doesn't matter whether you're using a call through your mobile phone over Bluetooth. It doesn't matter if you're connected to your PC with USB or you're connected to a desk phone using the analog cable.
Okay. There's a question about how the Poly device registers as Polycom, if you see that one in the request at the bottom, or I can certainly read that one back.
Yeah, I found that one. David, I think your best plan would be to take that into Intermedia Support. When you say registers, I'm uncertain if you're referring to the SIP address of record or if you're referring to some other line label that's appearing on the phone or to a record that's visible on the web UI. There's quite a few, there's hundreds of configuration settings that Intermedia is making use of out of thousands that we have available. So it's difficult for me to know exactly what you're tuning in on. But if you can reach out to Intermedia Support, get them to engage, if that's escalated up, by all means, they know how to get a hold of me, and they know how to get a hold of Polly. We can see what we can do.
Yeah, I'll reiterate. Yeah, please do contact us because we want to look at that. And there was another, that other question about, again, I think it's just a review. Can we use Save as Bluetooth on a cell phone, on our cell phone?
Absolutely, you can, provided you are in the area of the base station. Your mobile phone has a Bluetooth connection to the Savi's cradle, and then the cradle speaks over the DECT protocol to the headset. So you can't just take the headset, put it in a bag, and run off to Starbucks. That won't work. But if you are at home or you're in the office, if you have your mobile phone at your desk and you receive a call, you can answer on the headset and walk away from that base station. As long as your mobile phone stays within the Bluetooth range of that base station, you can continue much further because the DECT protocol gives you hundreds of more feet of walking distance away from your base station than Bluetooth would.
Great, thanks, Brad. And going back to the earlier question, the host name of the phone that registers DHCP.
Okay, so this might be, what is this, a vendor ID that you're looking at, or again, your best approach would be to get a hold of Intermedia Support. I can only answer in generality here. We have some components of our phones ID messaging that we cannot change. So if you're looking to change like a user agent, for example, we will always recognize ourselves as a Polycom device. We have the ability to add or remove a MAC address. But as far as DHCP goes, we don't have anything that will actually alter what the phone's ID is. Then again, raise that with support. I'd be curious to
Yep.
see what the data shows, and then I can probably get a better idea of what it is that you're asking.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Brad. Yeah, please do submit that to our support team, and we'll take a look at that. So at this point, that looks like those are all of the questions. I thank you. There were quite a few, and we tried to get through. I think we addressed all of them. Thank you for joining today and being part of this. A reminder that we do these on Wednesday, same time. The next series will be part of the business series, and then we do Tech Titans, and then as I mentioned, we do have one on our contact center. So take a look for those. And again, thank you for submitting your questions. We look forward to joining again. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.